Welcome to the Voices of a Stranger podcast. Here is your host, Reza Garajadaki.
Episode of The Voice of a Stranger Season 2, and our very first guest for this season is my good friend Dylan, who's from Ireland. Hi Dylan, how are you, buddy? Good to see you.
Yeah, how's it going? Good to see you.
Great. So Dylan and I met in Liverpool about a month ago. We were both there to celebrate the end of the Jurgen Klopp era at Liverpool, and we ran into each other having a couple of beers, and we bonded about football and about traveling. And when he heard my name, Reza, he immediately said, "Are you from Iran? Because I visited your country." And we started talking, and he started telling me some incredible stories about his travels around the world and some really unique and sometimes scary experiences. So I said, you know what? You got to jump on my podcast. And he said, I'll do it. So Dylan, tell us about yourself. I know you love to travel, how many countries you've been to, and share with my audience some of your unique experiences.
Sure. Yes, I've just found the high-level picture. I'm Irish, as you can probably tell by the accent. I lived in Ireland only until I was 17, and since then I've been kind of bouncing around quite a bit, studying in a few different countries in Europe, and now for the last 3 years I've been working online. I guess you can call me a digital nomad. I don't really like the term, it's a bit, I don't know, cringy or something, but yeah, I work online and I bounce around. And I've been to maybe like 60 or 70 countries at this stage. I'm not a big fan of counting myself. Some of these countries I've been to for a few days, and some of them I've had like life-changing experiences in for months or even years. But yeah, it's been crazy the last 3 years. It feels like I'm just living a dream, bouncing from one country to the next. And yeah, as you said, I've had quite a few kind of, let's say, tricky situations, or I live for that. Yeah, I guess you kind of, I know people who are listening can kind of get a feel for it, but I'm living for that kind of memorable experiences and just trying to kind of get as much as I can out of this life, and as much crazy shit as I can do, the better.
I love it. Living your dream, right?
Definitely. You want to hear a story?
So tell us now. You said you had visited Iran, which I was very excited about, and you've been to Iran. I left Iran in '79. I haven't been back since the revolution. And so, you know, your face lit up when I said I'm from Iran, and you said it was one of the best places you visited. So share with my audience about your time in Iran.
Sure. Yeah, sure. No, I can say that out of all the countries I've been to, like, I'm a big fan of lists, that I have lists for different things, like favorite foods, favorite attractions or whatever. If I do favorite countries, just actual favorite countries, Iran is number one. Kind of as time goes on, the more it solidifies its place as number one, that it has everything. But kind of the backstory is that I had an Iranian friend in Finland, and I was very close to her, and I kind of got introduced to the Iranian culture with her family. They're actually Kurds. But yeah, it taught to me a lot about their culture and their country, and I'm also kind of a history nerd, so I started to read more about the history. And what's super interesting about the Iranian situation is that it's kind of like the history is now. Whereas if you read about Egyptian history, like thousands of years ago, it's like, okay, that's cool. But then when you go there, like modern Egypt doesn't bear any resemblance to what you read in the books. So it's kind of hard to see any kind of feel like you're in it. Whereas with Iran, it's like you're reading and then you're like, okay, so now if I go there, this is kind of like right now it's had an impact. So, yeah, just the revolution and all that kind of history, how it's directly impacted people's lives today, and it's still kind of happening. Then the idea of going there was super interesting. And now when I went, I spent 1 month. I went pretty much everywhere in Iran, just 1 month with my Iranian friends. So I really got the local experience. And I'd say any area in which you can kind of rate a country, Iran can get at the very top. Like the people, absolutely amazing. Even those that don't speak English, they're so nice and polite, and yeah, like really, you get a feeling that they're really good people. And so hospitable, like crazy. There's a lot of hospitality. Then the food is really good. I love Iranian food. The nature, it's so varied that like if you go to the north, you have the big green mountains, and of course you have some desert. You have the Kurdish mountains. Then in the south, you even have some beautiful islands, which are just some crazy shit, like really next level stuff. And yeah, obviously the culture itself, it's one of those cultures that has Iran hasn't really globalized in that way. As treated like has stuck to many things that are very much Iranian, and they have their own little kind of things like Taruf, for example, are these three little cultural niche things which are just fascinating.
Now, tell me about. I know one of the things you said, which I watched this show on Apple called Tehran, which was amazing, and it showed kind of the lifestyle of the young. And I know you told me, and you don't have to go into too much detail, but you said you went to this wild party, and it was wilder
Yeah.
than. I mean, I tell some of my friends, they're like, "Wild." I mean, I had cousins and family members who've gone back to Iran. They said, "You have no idea how wild the parties are." I'm like, in Iran? They're like, so you verified that.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about that wild party that you went to.
Yep. Like number one best party of my life, and I think that's some good parties. But yeah, my friend somehow had like a connection. She's obviously from Iran, so she had a friend that said to pick us up in a car. Who got picked up in the car, dropped out into the suburbs of Tehran, like maybe 1 hour outside into like an abandoned neighborhood type thing. And then we walk inside, and it's just like obviously there's a guest list, and it's all very obviously hiding it from the government type thing. But once you get inside, it's just like the swimming pool surrounded by all like I mean I've only ever seen this in like the American movies where it's just like three different rooms with different
Right.
DJs, every possible, let's say, thing that you can imagine that people are taking, that is just like wild, a great atmosphere, great people as well, all young people who are speaking, so many people speaking perfect English. And yeah, I'd say obviously the best party of my life. And obviously, as we touched upon, it makes it even crazier when you're thinking, I'm in fucking Iran. Like, how does this even happen? Like, when you imagine Iran, that's the last thing you imagine. Like literally everything is illegal around you, which is obviously makes it much better that everybody here, like, if they got caught, like, they're all getting the whips, probably stuff.
Oh, so the excitement or the fear made it even more exciting. And then
Definitely,
yeah,
yeah. I was
and I
saying
know
even
the
if
Iranian women loved,
if the
and they
police,
loved you.
sorry. I was thinking even if the police come and then I get sentenced to the whips, because that's like your official punishment. I said I'll take it. That'll just add to the experience. That'll be totally worth it.
That is awesome. Yeah, I mean that is again when we spoke in Liverpool, that was one of my favorite stories. That's awesome. And then you traveled, you said, to not just Tehran, but you really saw the historical sites and Persepolis and some of the and that's
Yeah,
amazing. So you've seen more than I myself and many of my family. So how was it? How were the people
it's quite
outside the
common.
city?
Yeah,
Did
when
you
I meet
feel there was
Iranians,
difference, or was it?
yeah, I would say first of all, when I meet many Iranians who are often in the same situation as you are, or even second generation, that maybe they have come back, but most likely they
Sure.
haven't even been to their own country. That's quite common in other places as well, like Afghanistan. For example, you heard the
Right.
same kind of situation of second generation people who haven't been home. But yeah, in terms of the Iranian people, they're up there with some of the best. Like my friend is from Sanandaj in Kurdistan. Like when we went there, the family
Hmm.
treated us so well, and basically everywhere we went, and it's really just people. I have observed around the world, I would say that many countries they have kind of a mindset that each person, you can see that really one of the main things they want to do in life is just to be a good person. That is always in the forefront of their mind. And of course, Irish people were known for being hospitable, but it's a whole different game that we're playing if you compare
Oh
the
yeah.
Irish to the Iranians or to many other countries in the Middle East or in the Muslim world. That I feel like those guys are way, way ahead of us when it comes to hospitality, when it comes to just making people feel loved and trying to kind of be a kind person and look out for the rest. That in the West, we can definitely learn a lot from those kinds of countries for sure.
Great, great. Now let's talk about your experience in Afghanistan because that's what really got me when I was like, Dylan, you have to come on my podcast. So tell us about how you ended up in Afghanistan and when was it? Was this after just recently when the Americans left or before? And kind of how did you choose Afghanistan and what were you thinking?
Yeah, that's honestly the main question that everyone's asking, especially my family and people who care about me. Why the fuck are you going to Afghanistan? But I would say that Afghanistan, first of all, for many years, Iran was the number one country I wanted to visit. Eventually, when I ticked that off, I got to, as I said, I travel around, so I get to go to anywhere I want, which I'm super, super lucky for. But in Afghanistan, after the Americans left, it became one of the first times where you can actually travel there and it's somewhat
Wow.
safe. I know it's kind of a strange one because the Taliban is now the government, which in some ways you would think, okay, like an official terrorist organization is now running the country. How can it be safe? But then if you actually look into the details, the thing is the Taliban obviously wants the country to be seen as a tourist attraction and wants the government to be somewhat seen as legitimate. So they're really cracking down on security. They're not going to hurt any tourists. Well, we can see how this story plays out, but the idea is that they're not going to kind of shoot tourists or like any of this kind of crazy shit. And yeah, Afghanistan, it's just really because it has been so closed off for so many years, and it's really a very special country in so many ways with the culture and the history. Also, another thing, anybody who has gone there in the last 40 years as a traveler, like obviously not in a military role, but as a traveler, speaks great things about it. And that's another thing I really maybe want to go to Iran as well, is that people who have been there, they really speak so passionately about it. And when you hear time and time again about the same place or the
Wow.
same people, good things, then of course I'm like, okay, I gotta go check it out. And of course, another big thing is we only hear shit about these countries. Like on Western media, anytime Iran or Afghanistan is mentioned, it's only in a negative light. And if you ask any of my friends or family what comes to mind when they think of Iran or Afghanistan, they're thinking of some kind of, I don't know, desert war zone where like
Yeah.
no way would you ever go to. So then of course I want to go there, kind of confirm for myself how it is. And two of these examples and almost every example I find out that it's absolutely a great place to go to and not like we kind of fear or the media makes
Wow.
us think.
So you ended up, so that's a great, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, you're a wonderful spokesman of, and trying to go to places which, defy, cultural norms. So you ended up in Afghanistan. Tell us about your journey.
Yeah, it was great. First of all, I remember when I arrived, it was probably the first time in a long time that I was nervous arriving to a destination. I remember when I was younger, like backpacking in Tanzania, for example, when I was just 19, and I was like really nervous generally, like how is this gonna go? Is it safe? I don't really know what I'm walking into. I remember when I arrived into Kabul and I was in the same kind of situation, like because there's not much information online. It's becoming more and more popular to travel to Afghanistan, but still it's such a niche thing that I literally could not find anybody who had at that time. I went last September. I couldn't really find anybody who had just done it solo in the way I wanted to do it without a tour group and just kind of winging it in this type of way. I found one article from a guy who like said how you can do it, that it is possible. And I was like, okay, just because of this one article, fuck it, I'll do it. And I actually ran into that guy when I was in Afghanistan, that he was running some kind of organized tour. And I told him that the article that he wrote online was the main reason that I decided to go alone. Yeah, it went so great. People, I would say the most hospitable people I've ever met in the world, number one, which is absolutely fascinating when you think that like their country has been at war with the white man for 40 years. Of
Yeah.
course, I'm Irish and our country are not there, but like to them, I look American. I could well be American. They don't know that I'm not American, and they're
Yeah.
so welcoming. As I walk down the street, they shout at me. They say, "Welcome." Everybody wants to come talk to me, and not just sell me something, but just to be friendly and to talk to me, to practice their English, and mostly to make me feel welcome in their country. Which, if they looked at me as a white man and said, "Like, we hate you, get the f out of our country," that you're not welcome here. You guys have ruined our country. I would be like, okay, that's totally understandable, and I can't blame you for that. But when it's the absolute opposite, that they're so welcoming, so hospitable, it's mind blowing. Just for Afghanistan in general,
So
it's
you,
a great
yeah,
country. Of course, it's not ready
yeah,
for tourism in many ways. It's like it's really raw. So obviously, don't go there if you're not like an experienced traveler. Everything is just kind of figure it out as you go and stuff. In terms
as
of
you
it's
go,
a
right?
beautiful country. Yeah, doing it is obviously it's very local. Like there's not much variety, but it's still good. People are great. Yeah, I mean, if you want to get into like a real otherworldly feeling, that feels like you're traveling in time to a different
Yeah,
planet. That's just constant entertainment when you walk down the streets. It's
that's
like, what
awesome.
is going on here constantly?
That's amazing. So you ended up in the villages. So tell us about what happened when you went outside of the city.
Sure. So things were going very smoothly, let's say, up until about 3 weeks. My plan was to be there for about a month. Then after, I think, 2.5 weeks or so, I was invited to this random guy. I met him in a restaurant, became friends with him, as is often the case. Like if you're sitting alone at a restaurant, people are likely to invite you to their table. So they invited me, and then they invited me to their family home in the village. So at this stage, I was in Kandahar, which is like
Wow.
one of the biggest cities of Afghanistan. It's actually the nest of the Taliban. So this is where the Taliban is based, and it's really where they have originated from and spread. So it's one of the most conservative areas of Afghanistan. He invited me to his house in the village. I'm like, sure, that sounds great. Like going to get the real traditional experience. Why not? So the next day I check out my hotel. He collects me with his friend. We drive way off into the village, like really in some rural area. We're just driving through the pure like darkness at night. We arrive into the village home. There's like 20 men in one side of the house, and then the women are all in the other side of the house. I never saw them. Afghanistan is absolutely segregated, even way more than Iran is. The men and women basically don't mix, which is, I mean, that's a different topic. But yeah, anyway, all the men stay on their side. We're playing cards, just chatting, whatever. And they give us great food. We eat pomegranate, which is very famous from that area. Stay there at night. Next morning, I get a tour around the village. It's really like you can imagine, just kind of like houses made of some kind of wood. Like really like low level houses made of wood, very poor and rural, as you'd expect in rural Afghanistan. I go to the local school, I go in, I go into the classroom, say hi to the children, they bring me to the doctor's office, and then that's pretty much it.
Oh,
So
nice.
then after that, we go back to the house, and we're still waiting there, and then, and this is when things get a bit shady, and this is probably the best story of my life. It's absolutely, looking back at least, it's absolutely wonderful, and I love telling it, I love thinking about it, and I'm very glad it happened, but at the time, maybe it was a little bit different. But anyway, we're sitting there in the room. You can imagine like maybe 10, 15 of us, of the family sitting there. And then everyone's all relaxed, sitting back. And then everybody starts to like straighten up and people start to like tidy the room. And I look at them, okay, we have guests. That makes sense. And then I'm looking outside and people look a bit stressed. And I see a gun. I'm like, oh, it's the Taliban. Okay. And then there's loads of them. There's maybe like 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm not sure. They come in and the atmosphere of the room is very, very tense now. I'm thinking, like, is this just some kind of routine checkup? I'm not sure, but really, I know that they're here for me, like one way or another. And I'm trying to kind of make eye contact with my friend who brought me there, but he's avoiding it. Then he gets brought outside, he gets questioned. This situation goes on for maybe half an hour. And as we're sitting there, more and more Taliban start to pull up in their cars. I get brought outside and I count how many Talibs there are. There's 18 Talibs. So a group of 18 Taliban, which is larger than any group I have seen.
And they show up, with the trucks, with the machine guns and stuff, right? Yeah.
And not the trucks, just normal cars, but they all have like the machine guns. Think of like an AK-47 type gun. So yeah, I'm thinking this is serious. Then they started asking me some questions. There's one guy who speaks a little bit of English. He just asks me, why am I there? How did I meet that guy? Did I know him before? And then they asked something like, how did I trust him to bring me there? Just these kinds of questions. I'm just answering honestly. I'm thinking like my best approach here is just to be totally honest. Don't try to like trick them somehow or like tell some white lies. Just be totally honest and let it fall. Let cards fall where they fall, kind of thing. Yeah, then eventually they put me in the car and I have no idea what's going on. Like, nobody has really explained anything to me besides
Did they blindfold you?
Not yet. Still, we're still just in the garden of the house. So then they put me in the car. We drive maybe 10 minutes. Then we park up outside the village. I'm thinking, obviously the worst thoughts start to go through your mind that like, will this be some kind of execution where they like put me down in the field and just blow my brains out? I was thinking, it's very unlikely. And obviously, as the next few kind of hours and longer continue, I start to have these thoughts a bit more, but I always think that the Taliban hasn't executed any like random tourists for the whole last 2 years that they've been in control. I haven't done much that's wrong, so chances are I will be okay.
Yeah.
We continue to drive. We drive into the city. I'm trying to kind of figure out what's going on here. You can imagine me sitting in the back of the car thinking, what the hell is going on? They have saying on the speakers. On the speakers, they have like some Quran playing the typical Quran music type thing with the prayers. basically, yeah, I'm just thinking, let's see how this plays out. Where are they bringing me? What's happening? I don't know, but it's going to be a hell of an adventure, I'm sure. So then we pull into like I don't know what it is, but I'm looking. It just looks like a huge Taliban center. Let's say like huge Taliban flags with like the guards overwatching. We drive in, and the door opens. I go to step out. The guy pushes me back in and says, "Your eye." I said, "My eye." Like, what is that? And then he grabs my scarf from around my neck and wraps it around my eyes as a blindfold. I'm like, wow, this is really, at that time, I'm just thinking, like,
God.
okay, this is obviously scary, but to be totally honest, I wasn't like shaking and thinking, like, oh my God, this is horrible. The main thought in my mind was like, wow, this is fucking like a movie. Like, this is what a situation that I'm in right now. I've just been,
Hostages. Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
like how is this going to play out? If this goes the way that I can survive, this is going to be a hell of a story. At least that's all I'm thinking. And then I step out of the car. They kind of lead me. They're holding my hand, bringing me. I'm just kind of going in, walk inside, and I can hear so many voices. There's voices everywhere. I can feel I'm in some kind of room. They say sit down, and then I'm like a stupid Westerner. I'm looking for a chair to sit down. Of course, there's no chair. People in Afghanistan sit on the ground. You know, it's normally you'd be aware of. But when you're blindfolded, that you've just been arrested by the Taliban, there's a million things going outside there. Looking for a chair. We sit on the ground. Then there's silence for like 20 minutes, and then they say, "Your father's name." I tell them, "William." "Your grandfather's name." "Michael." And then they start asking like some of these kind of strange questions. They empty my pockets. I guess they were just filling some kind of form. They empty my pockets, but then I have in my pocket, I can't remember the amount, but a large amount of US dollars, because that's the currency that you change when you're there. A large amount of US dollars. I think it was, if I remember correctly, like something like 900 US dollars, like close to a grand. So I'm thinking, do I tell them about that?
Yeah.
Then my thoughts start to race. I'm thinking, if I tell them that I have 1,000, maybe they'll just instantly steal it and it's me wasting 1,000. I'm thinking, if I don't tell them, maybe that's like a million times worse than if they find it. So that I essentially make the decision, give them $1,000, and then they have all my possessions.
Smart.
I'm totally empty, and and then at that point I asked them, actually, can I count the money? So I was trying to count how much I have. They let me count it, but they make me keep my head down and they lift the blindfold them. As I'm counting, I can see in the corner of my eye a lot of handcuffs hanging on the wall. So that's the first time where I get the thought that like I'm in some kind of prison or something along those lines. And like, fuck, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we walk down the corridor. As we walk down the corridor, then they say, okay, let's take off the blindfold. I look up and I'm just in a corridor of jail cells, like metal steel doors on both sides.
Oh
Like
my
the most
God.
typical kind of rough jail cell you can imagine. And then I'm like, oh, this is it. Taliban prisons. Yes. And then
My God. Oh my God.
the story goes on for a bit, but to kind of the next one, what happens is they bring me
Yeah,
into a jail cell. It's totally empty, and that it just puts me inside. And by the way, this whole time everybody has been very polite to me. Nobody has shouted at me. Nobody has been rough with me. But of course, the situation itself is serious enough that even when they're being nice to me, there's obviously an ear of like seriousness. So they put me into a jail
Tension.
cell, totally empty. Yeah, totally empty jail cell, only with, I think if I remember correctly, like a water bucket type thing, a mat on the floor, and then a Quran on a shelf on the wall, absolutely empty. He says that. So I'm just sitting there. Time goes past. I tried to ask them, like, how long am I here for? Like 1 hour, 2 hours, 2 days, 1 year? I wanted to take it like, maybe now I'm just left in here for like years and nobody
Yeah.
ever talks to me if I could get a bit of course, the
Yeah.
guy doesn't understand at all. Yeah, so then I'm sitting there, the hours go by. I just start
course,
kind
yeah.
of, obviously, I have no entertain. I just entertain myself with my thoughts. I just think of different things. And I remember at one point, I'm getting so bored that for fun, what I do is I just run through kind of my life from the beginning to now, just like for fun, for entertainment. Because
Yeah.
I think most of us have never been alone with our
Memories,
thoughts
yeah.
for like 8 hours, 10 hours. So you get so bored. It's like, what am I going to do? I have absolutely nothing to do. Then they come out that evening and some guy brings me to a room and I sit down. It's like maybe 10 Talibs. There's only maybe like 2 guns, but still the Taliban members, they look scary. Just their general look. They have something in their eyes that most of them have been in war for the last 20 years or so. They have seen people killed. They've probably killed people and they have the big scary bears.
Sure.
They're scary people. They're as scary as as it gets. So then they sit down. There's one guy beside me. He's mainly speaking to me in English. There's also an interpreter who has a better level of English. But the first thing that he says to me is, "You are intelligence." I said, "Intelligence? No, I'm just tourist." He said, No, you are a spy. Your country sent you to spy on Afghanistan." I'm like, "Guys, honestly, I'm just a tourist. I'm not any kind of spy. I promise you." And I'm quite relaxed, to be honest, because I could be fucking shitting it, and I'd understand if somebody is, but still, for whatever reason, I'm also thinking it's a conscious decision to not be like panicking and nervous. So I'm thinking the more calm I am, the more it's to my favor. The more I'm shaking and stuttering and kind of saying the wrong stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it's better just to be calculated, try to like answer directly as they can. And at some point he says to me, "Hold out your hands." So I do this. I'm thinking like, what is he doing? And he looks at my hands and it says, okay, I'm guessing he's shaking, like, are they shaking? Which is an absolute horrible method to see if I'm lying in that case. Almost anybody in that place surrounded by 10 Taliban in an interrogation where they're accusing you of being a spy would be shaking. That if that's their kind of method to find out if somebody is lying or telling the truth, it's an absolute mess. It's horrible. The decision. So yeah, then they continue. They are fully convinced I was spy. Then they switch. They say that I was in the military for NATO during the war. I tell them that Ireland isn't part of NATO. We have an argument about that back and forth. They're telling me Ireland is part of NATO. I know it's not. I'm Irish. Like, I know it's not. So then they are telling me, no, you're lying. I'm telling them, Google it. Like, just give me the phone, Google it now. And then they eventually do. Turns out I'm right. Ireland isn't part of NATO. And then they say, but you say you are not part of military. Then how do you know this? How do you know Ireland is not part of NATO? Like, come on, guys. This is like basic information for any country to know if they're part of NATO or not. Conversation develops. They keep asking me all kinds of questions from all angles. I feel like I'm doing okay. Then the last point that they switched to, which I believe is more the real reason why they arrested me and for this whole scenario, they say that I shouldn't have went to the village without asking them for permission. So in Afghanistan, the rules are very let's say fluid, that like each village can have different rules, each city based on the leader of the Taliban, even when it comes to things like visa or these areas where it's very bureaucratic. In the Western countries that we have set rules, all the country will follow the rule. In Afghanistan, it can depend on the guy's feeling on the day. So in this case, maybe the leader in Kandahar wasn't too happy that a foreign guy got to the village for asking them for permission. I'm saying, like, how the hell was I supposed to know to ask for permission to go to the village? Ask me. And then often in Afghanistan, the conversation is often about religion. That they, like, more than anywhere else, they ask me my religion. I tell them I have no religion, and then they try to convert me so many times. They want me to say the Shahada, which is like the Muslim profession of faith, to say that there's only one God and Muhammad is the prophet. This phrase, they really can get aggressive for me to say. I don't want to say it. I try to like kind of be nice about it, tell them I respect the religion and I have no problem with Islam, but it's disrespectful for me to pretend, in my opinion, it's disrespectful for me to pretend that I'm becoming Muslim in front of them and like act like I'm Muslim and I'm not. So we kind of have the conversation. They ask me about the religion of my country. At some point, it gets a bit confusing that I think they're kind of asking, am I a Jew? And they're going on that part, which would probably be more problematic than anything. That could have been really shitty. And then the conversation, at some point we start to relax and it just becomes more normal. Conversations, they joke about my hair. They say, this one for female, why you have this? Because my hair is like slightly dyed and I guess it's too long for them as well. And for my mustache, they want to chop the mustache. I'm thinking, like, whatever they want to do, they can do it. If they want to cut my hair, chop my mustache, well, I had boys do be like this. And then at the end of the conversation, I'm thinking, I don't know how long they're going to keep me there for. They're not telling me how long. They won't answer that. They're saying they make a decision in the morning. And at some point, they say to me, actually, something along the lines of, okay, you made a mistake. Now your punishment is you go to prison. I'm thinking, like, what the hell does this mean? Maybe they're going to give you some long sentence. And I'm like, no, really? And then the guy jokes. He says, but hey, you already are in prison. You know this? And I'm like, okay, because still, they have a bit of humor. Like, I know the Taliban, they can be seen as scary guys, but they like to joke. They're just like anybody else. yeah, it's kind of go back to a
Right.
different side story. When I'm with the Taliban or other situations, a lot of the 2 weeks before, I was drinking tea with them, we even on a motorbike with them. They brought me to a football game, hanging out with the Taliban quite commonly. And it's funny that often when you go to take a picture, before a picture, they're joking, they're laughing, they can even be like giggling like little boys.
Yeah,
But
and
you
then
take out the photo, straight angry, such angry eyes, really like
yeah,
staring you
that's
down.
so funny.
Yeah, but in the room,
So
totally
Dylan,
chilled. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So you spend the night there. You're probably frightened. So tell us what happened the next morning.
Yeah, so next morning, still, I'm thinking somebody will come to me. They didn't. And one of the thoughts that I have in my mind is, I don't know how long this is going to be for. And I had no contact with the outside world. So the night before, I had asked them, can I please just, I have one favor to ask. Because they said, again, they're being nice to me, very polite. They said, we can help you with anything. If you need anything, just knock on the door. The person will come to you and will help you. I said, okay, I have no problem with food or whatever. I just have one favor. Can I please text my girlfriend? She'll be very worried about me. She will wonder what happened. She's already scared. I'm in Afghanistan. Maybe she will be crying all night. She won't sleep. And they said, no, this is your fault. This is because you did something bad. You are here. You must pay the consequences. And also, what do you
Oh
mean,
wow.
girlfriend? She should be your wife. Typical kind of, because they're very in with their own
I
value
know.
setting, because they
Yeah, of
don't like
course. Very
girlfriends. Like,
conservative.
sure,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, next morning they bring me breakfast, just some basic bread and egg and like very sugary tea. And then I'm thinking, okay, next morning there'll be somebody coming. The whole day plays out, and it goes until until that evening. So now it's my second day in the prison. It's the evening, and I'm thinking, okay, I guess I'm spending the second night here. No communication from anybody. I have no idea what's going on or what happens. One thing that did keep me somewhat kind of sane was that there was a British tourist that was arrested in Afghanistan a while ago. That he was, I don't know, he basically went to some kind of gold mine with a permit, and basically he was more at fault
Right.
than I was, and they kept him in prison for 8 months. So I was thinking, okay, if they're going to keep me here, worst case scenario, for 8 months, I can handle that. I mean, that's not the end of the world. That's going to be quite rough, but hey, it's like, that's, my life will still
I'll
be
be
on
alive.
track, and
Yeah.
that's, yeah, like that is
Right.
what it is. And if it's only
Yeah.
less than 8 months, sure, but like when it starts to become like a year or 2 years or 3 years, then
Yeah.
it's actually like something to worry
I get
about,
it. I
which
get
would be
it.
devastating. But anyway, I was like, whatever happens, happens. It's down to my hands. Let them fall, let the cars fall where they fall. Then that evening, some guy comes, brings me out. As I walk out, my friend, who had also been arrested at the same time as me, the local guy, I can see him. He's being released, and he looks quite shook up. Kind of makes eye contact with me, but avoids just for whatever reason. So he gets let out. I'm thinking, okay, great. Now it looks like I'm being let out. But then they, for some reason, bring me back to the cell. I wait a few more hours. Then they bring me out, and they bring me into a room, and then it's the final interrogation. That is quite clear. Like, my bags are packed there. They asked me more questions. They asked me some questions which are tricky, which really I could fuck up, and anybody who did kind of make a mess of them, I would be understandable. Like, they asked me, for example, when you go back to your country, what will you tell people about the Taliban? They go, okay, better
Mm.
answer this like on the honest part more than anything. And I did answer honestly. I said, I think the Taliban are good men. They try to do what their God wants them to do. They treated me very nicely here.
Thank you.
Everybody was very polite to me and kind to me. And of course, I will tell them that this experience was scary and negative. But as long as I go out now, my opinion of Afghanistan and Taliban is good. And then they interpret it to the guy,
Great.
and it comes back to me. And then when it comes back to me, the guy says, no, don't tell them the Taliban are kind. Tell them we are strict, and anyone who comes to our country must follow our rules. I was like, okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then basically, they eventually they asked me some other really like tricky questions of that nature, and then eventually they let me out. They sent me back to my hotel in the car. We have a discussion, like we often do, about like what the Americans done to their country, how the Americans went there and tried to
Sure.
basically push God out of their country. That everybody there
Yeah.
is religious and they
Sure.
need to live under the real rules of their God, which is their mindset, and it
Right.
makes
Right.
sense. I mean, anybody who honestly believes that God has
Yeah.
sent
I
down a set of
understand.
rules, yeah, you want to follow those rules. And if you have some foreign people coming in saying, no, don't follow the rules of your God, follow our rules, of course nobody's going to be happy with that. And these guys really fought
It's going to be
for their God.
yeah, for their independence. So you got to the hotel, and I think you told me you like got out of there right away.
Yeah, after that, when I got back to the hotel, I had a chat with the hotel guy. He was my friend, and he told me what actually happened was after I left the hotel, he is under obligation to always tell the Taliban where the tourist, when the tourist has left and when the tourist arrives. So he told them they left. They said to where. He said to a friend's house in the village. They said, where, what's the address? He didn't know the address. And all panic stations went off that supposedly the Taliban were searching for me all night. That, yeah, like it was really, they were thinking, yeah, some kind of spy doing some mission in the village or who knows what. And then eventually the next morning, after a night of searching, they found me. So then, yeah, after that, I was like, fuck it, I gotta leave this country. I had some plans. I wanted to go up to different cities and see different things. It was quite disappointing. I didn't get to do that. But after that, I was like, next morning, I went to the ticket office, booked my flights out of there. I was like, I don't care where I'm going. Where's the cheapest flight to? Uzbekistan. All right, every to Uzbekistan. Flight leaves the day after or whatever. And then while I was going around the city of Kandahar, there was a guy following me on the bike that was actually sent by the Taliban. At some point in the ticket office, like, he just started talking. And I was like, who's this guy? And then the guy translated that he is from the Taliban, but that he showed me the thing. He's like some kind of intelligence that he's being assigned just to take care of me for my own safety.
Make sure.
Yeah, sure. Then I just went to Kabul, flew out, Dylan, and I was like, I'm done.
That's amazing. Well, listen, this has been an amazing story. I mean, I know our listeners are going to be like me. I know when I heard it while we're having beers in Liverpool, my eyes were open. But thanks so much for going into detail and sharing your story. So now you can share this on, because it's going to be on YouTube. Please share it with all your friends and family.
Sure.
Because I'm sure a lot of them haven't heard all the details. But again, thank you so much. I hope to see you. Maybe I'll travel with you one day. And I hope you come to San Diego to visit me, because I've told a lot of people about you, and I really appreciate your time. So thanks so much. Enjoy your summer. And any other words of wisdom for our guests or listeners about traveling?
I would say just one thing. I have a motto: no balls, no babies. It comes from Mark Cuban. I'm sure some of you American guys know Mark Cuban, but the idea is that, you need balls, you need courage to go for something in life. And when you do, you get the babies, which is the reward. Whenever you feel scared to do something, whenever you're thinking, oh, I want to do this, but I'm nervous, or what if, you need the balls. So that's kind of the way I live my life, and it's definitely got me well. And I know American people don't travel as much as others, but yeah, for me, it's the absolute best thing I do in my life. It's made me the person who I am. It's absolutely essential. I think that, get out there, see the world. America's a great country. I love America. I know you guys get a lot of hate. I think it's a great country in many ways, but the world is big, many different cultures, many places to see. Get out there and see it.
Thank you so much, Dylan. Great seeing you, my friend, and I really look forward to meeting you again in person. All right, have a great day.
Give me a shout if you come to Iran.
And by the way, I will, of course. And by the way, listeners, I got up at 4 a.m. to interview Dylan, and he's in Spain right now. But I wanted to get him on the podcast so bad, so I'm up at 4 a.m. right now. So it's worth it. All right, Dylan. Ciao. Good seeing you. Take care. Namaste. Bye-bye. Bye. All right, Dylan.
Thanks for joining us this week. Please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or on your webpage at thevoicesofastranger.com. If you enjoyed the show, please tell a friend and subscribe to the show. Tune in next week for a new guest. Until next time, keep living life with passion and make each day count.